Okay guys, good evening. Sunday night, August 7th, 8:50 p.m. New York time. Just making a brief video guys. I got a couple of questions about this recently, another one today about what news site that I use for my Elliott wave analysis for my entry and exits. And as I've said before, I don't trade the news per se. I don't just enter a trade because of a news release. I follow Elliott wave patterns, but I use the news to help me time my entries and exits, okay, for when a correction may end or when a trend may end or begin or what have you. So again, I just want to really stress that. But this is very valuable information to have. So first thing is there are many sites out there that will give you similar information. And pick the one that works for you. I think Forex Factory overall is the most concise and has all the major events and overall rates them pretty well, delivers the information in a timely manner, etc. So, like I said, pick the one that works for you. The main differences are going to be what they list, but again, the main events are going to be pretty much across all of them. The main difference is, one site might list something as high impact, on another site it might only be listed as medium impact, or vice versa. So it's these different impact levels that you're going to probably see variance on for some of them, but a lot of them are going to be the same. So like I said, you pick the one that you want, but this is Forex Factory, which I think is nice and clean. It's easy to read. They cover most of the major ones. They're pretty accurate, and of course there's no charge for it. Don't pay for this information. If you're paying to get an economic calendar, you're being ripped off, because there's no need for it. It's free information. It's available on many different Forex websites. Okay, but we're just going to talk about Forex Factory. So you go to forexfactory.com. So when you just go to the website, this is the home page. And this is a really good site, but I'm only going to be talking about the calendar. I really don't use much else, but there is a lot of stuff here. There are forums. There's quick snapshot of what's going on with the major pairs. There's information on brokers. There's more market information. There's news wire reports down here that you can click on and read news reports that they aggregate from different websites. Again, these are some of the forums that are going on. You can join and participate in conversations if you like. So there's really a lot here you can do if you so choose. So when you go in here, Forex Factory, you click on the calendar, and it will bring you to this page. Now it's going to default to the current week. That's the default look. So it says this week, so that's today, Sunday, August 7th, and that'll run through Saturday, August 13th. So that's the default. You can use these arrows to scroll forward by week if you wish, or backwards. So this was last week right here. Okay, so let's go back to the current week for a minute. And then over here, you can also navigate this way as well. You can click on an individual date and go to that date. See, it lights up green. This is the current week that's lit up green. You can click these out. If you click this out, it'll bring you to that week. So in other words, it's the same navigation, just different how you want to do it. If you want to change months, you can use this, or go back to the previous month here. So you can go wherever you want, but this is the default look, is the current week. And again, you can change it here too. You want to narrow in just for that day, you can do that. Here's this week we're already looking at. This month, tomorrow, next week, next month, yesterday, last week, last month. Up next would be the very next event that's coming up. So you can really customize this, but again, this is probably the best look. It gives you a snapshot of the whole week in a nice convenient format. Okay, so here's the date, Sunday, August 7th. These are the times that it's expected to come out, and these are New York times here, and I believe there is a way you can adjust the time zone, or it may actually sense that just when you log in, but these are defaulted to New York time, which is where I am. If there's no set time, it's going to say tentative. So some of these reports don't come out on a set schedule as far as a set time, so it's just going to say tentative, and in which case you have to just watch the wires. You could go back to the home page here and look at the news releases. You could go to another website like a Bloomberg or forexlive.com, and they also have a calendar there too. But this just means that it's tentative because there's no set time for release. Okay. And then here, this is the currency that'll be impacted, and then here's the impact level. Okay, so if you hover over these with your mouse, it'll tell you. So orange is medium impact expected, yellow is low impact, and red is high impact. Okay, so I really only concentrate on the orange and reds, and I'm going to show you how you can filter out the yellow ones. And then this is what's coming out. This is the data piece that's coming out. Okay, in this column. Over here you've got a detail folder. This is really nice if you don't know what is Chinese yuan trade balance, like what's it measuring, why is it important. So you click this under detail, you click this folder, and it's going to open this up, which is really nice if you don't know. It's going to show you the last 5 entries as a default. If you want to see more, you can click more. You can pretty much go back as far as you want. Okay, so this is the last time it came out was July 13th. You can click on that and it'll bring you to more detail. Okay, so here was the last time it came out. Okay, whoops, yep, so I just want to go back to this. Okay, so this is the last time it came out. So if it's red under the actual column, this was the number when it came out on July 13th. If it's red, that means it came out less than the forecast, which it did. The forecast was 320 billion, came out at 311, so it was negative, potentially negative for the currency. Doesn't mean the currency is just going to sell off, but it means theoretically it's a negative number for the currency. If it comes out green, it was better than forecasted, which it did here. And there are some times where you'll see it black, just like the middle. That means it came out pretty much in line with expectation. In this particular case, it doesn't show any like that, but you'll see plenty of times where the number is not green or red, just black. That means it came in as expected. And then you had the previous column. So this previous 325 was the previous time before that. So this 325 now becomes the previous for the July number. So that was the last time it came out. And then this is what they were forecasting, and this is what actually happened. Okay, so that's your history. Then over here, it tells you where they source the data from. You can click on that and read it. And then this tells you, what it's measuring. Right here, it's going to show you what happens. So in this case, if the actual number is better than the forecast, it's good for the currency. It's always going to show you what's good for the currency. In this case, actual better than forecast is good. Sometimes, depending what the number is or what the measure is, it's going to say if the actual comes out less than forecast, it's good for the currency. But it's always going to tell you what is good for the currency. What's going to make this number green. Okay, so in this case, actual better than forecast. It's going to tell you when it comes out, how often. It's going to tell you the next release date, and then there's some really nice notes about like why traders care, and it just gives you a little bit more detail about the release of the data and any kind of nice to know information that Forex Factory adds. So again, if you don't know, if you're not sure what a particular thing is measuring or why it's important, this is it. Perfect, nice little folder, gives you everything you can possibly want to know. Okay, so let's go back to what I was going to tell you about how to filter out what you don't want to see. So you go up here, the top right corner where it says filter. This is the default with everything checked. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck the low impact and the non-economic news. This gray one is non-economic. Very rarely is there anything even listed for that, but I don't want to see it anyway, so I'm going to uncheck those. I'll just leave the high impact and the medium impact. And then I'm going to leave all the event types. This I'll leave the way it is. And then for currencies, I'll leave all the currencies checked. Okay, because I trade all these. I don't trade the Chinese yuan, but this is an important currency to watch for the Asian currencies. It can definitely have an effect on the Aussie, on the Kiwi, on the yen. So you definitely want to watch this, even if you don't trade the yuan. But I do trade all the rest of these. Okay, so I leave them all checked. But you can uncheck them if there are some currencies you don't check. If there's some news type events you don't care about, you can uncheck them and it'll filter that stuff out. And then once you get it the way you want, you click Apply Filter. And here we go back to our screen, and now here you go, where now we're only seeing the orange and the reds. Okay, and your eyes should automatically be looking for the reds. These are the most important ones. But again, don't ignore the orange ones, especially if the patterns are are impactful. If you're a technical trader, this might help you. The other thing is, if you can go back at the charts and look, hey, the last time one of these orange level news came out, it really had a big impact, so I'm going to watch it. Or maybe it was some of this red news came out and it didn't have a big impact, so maybe I'll look at it, but I'm not going to pay too much attention to it. So that's why, sometimes these are not always accurate, but for the most part they are, though. Okay, and then you just scroll down and you see you get a nice one-page view of everything that's happening for this week. Okay, and all filtered out the way you like to see it. So, and again, if you go back to last week, you can see a week that's already been completed. And so here you go. So here's where I was talking about, where it comes out about in line with expectations, not red or green. Forecast was 50.1, came out at 49.9. That's considered pretty much in line, so it just came out black. And then here you had, green, better than expected, red, negative, worse than expected, and so on and so forth down the line. If an event was listed as tentative, once it comes out, the time will change. So the one I can point to was the GDT Kiwi. It came out. It ended up coming out at 10:10 a.m. New York time, but that's not a set time. So this originally said tentative. Once the news actually comes out, Forex Factory will update that with the actual release time. And usually between about 9 and 11 a.m. New York time is when they release this data. So in this case, it came out at 10:10. So that's why you don't see any tentative here. This one for sure was tentative originally, but like I said, once the news comes out, they'll change it. And so, like I said, you can see what happened. The other thing I want to point out, if you see something like this in the previous column, you see like these right here, this means it was revised, and if you hover over it, it'll tell you that. So originally when this came out, it was, in this case, it was negative 5.2. You can see it on the screen there. They revised it, so at the time when this one comes out, they also put a revision in for this one. That's why they changed it to red, and it'll have a little note here telling you that it was revised. So if it's not black in this previous column, if it's red or green, there was a revision to the data. And that could be important because this was the previous number, and that's really what you're comparing this one to. Okay, not so much the forecast, but if they revise something up or down, that could have an impact on how important the new release is. So that's why it's important to see that. But you won't see a lot of revisions, but there'll be a few in there every week that are shown as revisions. That's where the governing body, wherever they get the information from, kind of went back and looked at the data and said, you know what, we didn't have it really accurate, we're going to change it. So let's go back to the current week. And so we're back to here. So the only one we've had out so far is this Japanese current account. Came out about a little over an hour ago, and they came out better than expected, so that's why it's green. The next one will be about a half hour. Actually this one's tentative. We'll have Chinese trade balance will come out sometime tonight, and then this will update, and this time will change from tentative to when it was actually released. Alright, but the biggest thing, guys, is, like I said, is the date, the time, the currency impacted, the impact level, what's being measured. You got your detail folders so you can see what it's all about. Change your filters up here, okay, with this little funnel. Go ahead and change your filters, and if you don't like the weekly view, you can change that over here with whatever view you like, but I think the weekly is the best. It gives you a snapshot of what's coming up. So I hope that helps, guys. Any questions, let me know, but like I said, I got a couple requests for that, and hopefully that was helpful. And I'll try to make a couple other ones this week as we get closer to some of these events that I talked about in the last video. Alright, guys, have a great night. Talk to you all soon.